I am Dr. Muhammad Yasin Az from the Department of Physics, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank the Techno Science 2021 Organizing Committee for providing me this opportunity to present my work in this prestigious scientific event. Today, I am going to present some results on plasma-driven photocatalytic degradation of synthetic dyes using titanium dioxide nanoparticles as a photocatalyst. I will present some background of water pollution in my city where I conducted this research, and then how we can use titanium dioxide as a photocatalyst for treatment of water, and how the photocatalyst can be activated using plasma through the photocatalysis process, and experimental procedure adopted to complete this research. I will also present some results and possible discussion on these results and with some concluding remarks. Faisalabad, where I conducted this research, actually the third largest city of Pakistan in terms of population and industry. Textile industry and agriculture remains its hallmark. However, this city lacks basic data related to air and water quality. Apparently, there is no proper environmental monitoring in this city is being done by the government of Pakistan. The contamination of water bodies is generally caused by the release of pollutants as shown here into groundwater or into streams, lakes, rivers and oceans. The polluting substances degrade the water quality and natural functioning of the ecosystems. In developing countries like the coliforms, pesticides, toxic metals and industrial effluents are the major sources of surface and subsurface groundwater pollution, and Pakistan is also facing the same situation in the country. So the main focus is on the water pollution remediation. So I will discuss the sources of water pollution. These are the iron chemicals, steel, leather, electroplating, shipping, anthropogenic activities, and textile industries are the major sources of water pollution in the city. Uh, there are different methods are being adopted to treat the water to increase the quality of the water in the city. These include some physical treatment methods and biological treatment methods and chemical treatment methods. The most practiced methods are the chemical treatment, which involves the removal of the bacteria, disinfection process, and removal of the colors, odor, taste, activated carbon, and other chemicals from the water through different chemical processes. Here is another technology which we can use for treatment of the water, especially for the removal of the dyes from the water, because I early mentioned Faisalabad is the textile hub of the country. Most of the textiles are being manufactured in this city, so a lot of synthetic dyes are being used to dye the fabrics. So the dye pollution is a major concern of this city. So in this study, we adopted plasma technology to activate the photocatalyst for the removal of the dye or degradation of the dye from the textile effluents. Since plasma technology has been tested for cleaning of polluted water, non-thermal plasmas are being used for processing of materials, removal of contaminants. It is also used for generation of ozone and other medical treatments. It contains lot of reactive species, both oxidizing and reducing species, mainly based on hydrogen and oxygen. For example, hydroxyl, which is the most reactive radical. Also, it contains the hydrogen peroxide, ozone, and other reactive species, which when react with the dye molecules, they break them into water and carbon dioxide. The reactive natural species in plasma can also disintegrate the or kill the microorganism cell walls. For example, it is also used to kill the bacteria in the water. So our focus is actually on the degradation of synthetic dyes from the textile effluent. Here is the mechanism we adopted to degrade the dye molecules in water in the presence of the plasma. Actually, why we need the plasma? Because we use TiO2 nanoparticles, which can only be activated in the UV region of the electromagnetic spectrum. So, electromagnetic spectrum only contains UV radiation in small proportion, about 5% of total spectrum. So it is not reasonable to use the sunlight for the degradation of dyes in the presence of TiO2 catalyst. So we decided to get the UV radiation from the plasma jet, which not only contains the UV radiations but also it contains the other reactive species, for example OH, nitrous oxide, nitrogen peroxide, carbon dioxide, other reactive species, ozone, hydroxyl radicals. So we get this combined effect to degrade the dye molecules in the presence of the UV radiations and other reactive species in the plasma. Here is a simple mechanism how actually TiO2 interact with the UV radiations to produce holes and electrons. Uh, Here is a holes, and you see the on the upper side there are the electrons. These electrons reacts with the oxygen to produce the superoxide anions in this form, which react with the methylene blue to degrade it into carbon dioxide and hydrogen. On the lower side, the holes which react with the OH hydroxyl radicals to produce further hydroxyls, and these hydroxyl radicals react with the dye molecules to degrade them into the non-toxic species. So here is a mechanism actually we adopted to complete this research. We use different precursors and different chemicals to synthesize TiO2 nanoparticles, and these nanoparticles then were added into a dye containing water, and from the top we targeted it with a plasma jet. This plasma jet interacted with the dye containing solution, and some reactive species from the plasma and UV radiations interacted with the dye molecules and break them into the carbon dioxide and water as mentioned in the previous slide. So actually, the upper table shows that we use different precursors for the production of TiO2 nanoparticles, and we check the effect of TiO2 these surfactants as stabilizers on the particle size of TiO2 nanoparticle, and actually we did not find any major difference on the size and shape of TiO2 nanoparticles. We also studied the plasma chemistry at the interface where plasma interact with the dye containing water, and we check what kind of species it can contain, and this spectrum FTIR spectrum indicate that the species at the plasma water interaction point are the water plasma interface contains the nitric acid, nitric oxide and nitrous oxide, ozone, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and all these species play their role in degradation of dye molecules. Here the same images of TiO2 produced using simple sol gel method, and we can see that there is a uniform distribution of particle size, and we also counted the particle size and find the uniform particle size. Since we use different type of stabilizers and all stabilizers produce almost similar particle sizes. Here the XRD results of the TiO2 produced using different stabilizers, and our stabilizer shows that the TiO2 nanoparticle consists of anatase and rutile phases, and the top plot was used to find out the band gap energy of the particle, and we calculated the band gap energy using top plot, and it was about the 3.06 electron volt. If we see this band gap energy correspond to the wavelength as measured using the PL spectra, and it falls in the range of 235 nanometer to 245 nanometer. So this show that this band gap energy falls in the UV region, and visible part of the light cannot be used to activate the photocatalyst. So then we expose the photocatalyst we added the photocatalyst in the dye containing solution, and then it exposed to the plasma jet, and plasma jet when interacted with this solution, it also it gave not only the reactive species but also produced the UV radiations. These UV radiation activated the TiO2 photocatalyst, which reacted with the dye to degrade it into the water and carbon dioxide. We use different amounts of the TiO2 catalyst. First, take the zero point 0.1 gram, zero point 0.2 gram, 0, and then zero point 0.3 gram in same amount of the solution, and we check the degradation profiles under the plasma exposure. As we see that the plasma exposure time increases, same does the degradation up to the 30 minutes, and thereafter the degradation gets a stability, and we did not see further degradation of the dye over plasma exposure time. So it shows that after 30 minutes of plasma exposure, we can get the maximum degradation of the plasma, which is about 93 to 95%. And then it is also important to check the stability of the photocatalyst over multiple cycles. So we used each catalyst for 5 multiple cycles to check its stability and recyclability. So if we see that we perform 5 runs with the same catalyst, and we see that there is a very small decrease in the degradation efficiency of the photocatalyst over 5 cycles. It shows that this catalyst is stable and can be used for multiple cycles, which add to its economic value and efficiency in during repeated uses in the degradation processes. So here we compared our results with the previous study. We understand that 30 minutes of plasma exposure in the current study provide the maximum degradation, which is about 95%. And then we compare these results with the other studies using different photocatalysts, and we see that there are some studies which are showing the 98% degradation, but it take around 180 minutes to get this 98% degradation. So it shows that we get this almost similar efficiency within the first 30 minutes of plasma exposure. There is another study which shows that about 96% degradation efficiency after 60 minutes of the time using the anatase phase TiO2 nanoparticles. But it is difficult to synthesize a single phase of TiO2 nanoparticles, and also it take almost double time to get the similar efficiency. So these results suggest that the tested photocatalyst under the plasma exposure is the best method to get the maximum degradation in a small period of the time. I also like to mention here that the plasma jet we used in this study was the laboratory built setup, and we did not buy any item to complete this setup, and it was fabricated in our laboratory. So concluding remarks, I would say that plasma assisted catalytic treatment introduced some oxidative species in the water. These species reacted with pollutants and caused the degradation of harmful contaminants. The TiO2 catalyst, as we mentioned in PL study, works only well only in UV region of light spectrum, because the wavelength associated with this catalyst was in the range of 235 nanometer to 245 nanometers, and this show that this wavelength falls in the UV region. So this catalyst is not effective in the visible region. The combined effect of the photocatalyst, plasma reactive species, and plasma bound UV radiations promoted the degradation efficiency of the methylene blue dye, and we get the maximum degradation in within a 30 minutes of plasma exposure, which is so far the best results. And this result was obtained by using a locally fabricated plasma jet setup, which was using the argon gas as a source of the plasma. Under UV plasma jet exposure, the maximum degradation efficiency was 95%, which was achieved in 30 minutes, and catalyst remained about 93 to 95% effective even after 5 cycles of the dye degradation. So the it maintains stability over recycling. It shows that the catalyst is effective for multiple uses, and it shows that this is an economic method of using the TiO2 catalyst for for the degradation of synthetic dyes. Thank you very much.